Planning Commission meeting for November 6th is called to order. No, what did I say?
You said November 6th.
Well, I'm reading
You're
the,
reading the
You were reading the last
reading the minutes from the last one. Let's try December 4th, meeting called to order. Could we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Adler,
Here.
Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner Gold,
Here.
Vice Chair Jameson, absent, Chair Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
Could we stand for the pledge? Scott, would you lead us, please?
Sure.
Place your right hand over your heart. Let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So does anybody have any questions or want to make changes to the agenda?
Not I.
Looks okay? Okay.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
Can I get a second?
Oh, second, yeah.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes
Aye.
4-0. Time for public comment. It's time when the public can comment on items not on the agenda or items that are on the consent agenda. Do we have anybody that would like to speak?
May I get a copy of the agenda? They're on the table right now.
And I don't see anybody online with a hand up anyway. Okay, well, let's move on to the consent items then. We've got the minutes and the current projects. Anybody have any questions or changes they want to make to the minutes? Or questions on the current projects?
Without any, I'll make a motion to approve consent items.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 4-0. Any ex parte communications to report from anybody? No? Good. On to public hearings. 5C, okay, 5A, I think.
And I need to remove myself for numerous reasons, but I'm also right across the street and part of that project, so I will leave the room.
Okay. Could we have the staff report on item 5A, please?
Give Commissioner Peterson a minute. Okay, before you is a public hearing to consider adoption of Planning Commission Resolution 2310, recommending that apologize. Public hearing to consider adoption of Planning Commission Resolution 2314, located at 1704 Mission Drive, PN 139240033, for a development plan to construct 9-unit boutique hotel and adopt a Class 32 exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act. Before you is the 1704 Mission Drive cottages. The project site is located at the corner of Alisal Road and Mission Drive, State Highway. The project site was originally a gas station, but has since been remediated and has been vacant for the last 20 years. The Planning Commission approved had a previous project that was approved, including a 2-story commercial building with underground parking, but that project has since been abandoned and expired. So again, the project site is located at 1704 Mission Drive, look in the TRC zone, and it is approximately 16,309 square feet in size. As you can see here, this is Mission Drive up to the top, Alisal Road, and this is the proposed project site you see in red. Next is the old bank building that has also gone through project approval and has submitted construction documents, and the city parking lot here. You can see it to the south.
Raphael,
Yes.
interrupt you. Could we put that up on the screen so that the people that are here can see it?
It's, you know,
There you see right behind you.
Oh, okay.
So the proposed project is construction of 9 cottages, approximately 250 to 390 square feet in size, one 400 square foot ancillary building, which will be used as a gathering building on the property, courtyard and perimeter landscaping, a stone wall, and the one thing to note is there's no on-site parking. So here, just to note, there is a building here at the corner, sort of the landmark building known as the Windmill, and then the individual cottages are surrounding the site in a very European courtyard-esque setting. So the applicant has completed numerous changes to fit the community architectural style and character. Excuse me. The Danish rural style, there are a total of 8 Danish rural style cottages situated along the east and south property lines, with dry creek and pond featuring one of the foreground elements. As mentioned earlier, there's a windmill feature, and that is actually a hotel room that you see at the corner of Alisal and Mission. It's a very prominent gateway feature to the proposed project. And then, as mentioned in the last slide, there is a gathering room, and that's shaped as a church steeple. And so again, this proposed project before you has gone through numerous design changes and has gone to the DRC a few times before coming to the Planning Commission to better fit that community character of our town. So a couple items to note as a part of the proposed project. Parking, as mentioned earlier, there is no proposed on-site parking. Per the Solvang Municipal Code, the project does require 10 parking spaces. As a part of our city ordinances, there are exceptions for parking. The first one is it does allow for the applicant to propose off-site parking within 500 feet of the proposed project. The applicant currently has an approved project on the old bank site to which they could enter into a parking agreement adjacent to that, as well as add easements, et cetera. And then that easement would, and then also there's a project kitty corner known as the Denmarket Square that's currently in project review. And so they can also, and they are proposing to add the 10 spaces on that site. So the project has been conditioned to have a recorded document approved by the city attorney documenting the available parking before a building permit is issued. If there's no documented excess parking spaces available on either of these project sites, the applicant will be required to pay an in lieu fee in parkings. So the city has established an in lieu fee for parking in the TRC, so the applicant would be forced to pay that fee if none of the two projects can accommodate the parking on site. Trash enclosures is another item that typically is included as a part of most commercial projects, particularly ones that are a vacant site. The applicant is not proposing any trash enclosures on site. The project is proposed as an annex or extension to the other buildings owned by the applicant, and trash generated by these units will be collected by the cleaning staff and disposed at the adjacent sites. Again, very similar to the parking exception, city staff has provided and added a condition that a shared use agreement be established and easements recorded, particularly if it's utilizing the adjacent site on the old bank building. So if there's a pathway that cuts between the two, a use easement would be required and conditioned to meet the trash enclosure requirements. As mentioned previously, the DRC did review and comment and provided a bevy of comments to the applicant. Their comments included having an on-site service vehicle parking space provided, adding a corner bench, relocation of the entry to Alisal, that all the cottage roofs changed to thatch type roofing, the stone reduced to just fireplaces and some walls, half timber elements were added to the cottages, and perimeter wall revised to river rock. So these are some of the items that the applicant, in working with the DRC and going through the DRC meetings, has revised and reflected in the drawings before you this evening and in the project for vote before the commission. As with all projects, we look at 3 main things. We looked at the general plan consistency as well as our zoning ordinance consistency. The project is consistent with the applicable general plan designation as well as applicable existing general plan policies. The parcel is consistent with the envisioned uses, such as tourist commercial uses, and in this instance, it's 9 cottages for hotel uses, which will be generating TOT taxes. So an alternative to a standard hotel based on the proposed site plan and architecture. So again, this isn't your standard hotel that you see. It's an unmanned hotel, but at the same token, it has a very unique and different subset of architecture that fits in line with our community character. And guests will be able to walk the downtown core and provide an economic benefit to the city. The proposed project is also consistent with the underlying zone, which is the TRZ zone, and that's with the included proposed exceptions to both parking and the trash enclosure. As with all projects before the Planning Commission, we do have to make what's called a California Environmental Quality Act determination, and the Planning Division has determined that this project is categorically exempt, utilizing a Class 32 for the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act and the CEQA guidelines pursuant to Section 15332. And this exemption is included in Attachment B of your staff report. City staff does recommend the Planning Commission adopt Planning Commission Resolution 2314, approving a development plan for 9 cottage hotel units at 1704 Mission Drive, as well as adopt a California Environmental Quality Act exemption Class 32. And with that, I will open up to questions from the Commission.
I do. So just for clarity, you spoke about the parking spaces. The project requires 10 spaces. However, the developer could potentially use lots that are within 500 feet.
Yes, that is correct. That is an exception in the Solvang Municipal Code.
So then why, if he had that, then why would we request that the developer purchase spots or pay in lieu fees?
So we're requesting that so in particular with the Den Market Square project, if the project exceeds, the project that's on site is not able to accommodate those 9 spaces, then it will have to pay the in lieu fee. Does that make sense?
Understood.
So then, additionally, the applicant is previously also have a development plan approved for the bank site. That applicant has contacted city staff and is wishing to amend that, so that has to go back before the Planning Commission. And so based on the proposed amended uses, it's potentially would open up the bank parking lot for the additional parking spaces. So we've really actually made the condition a lot much more flexible. But again, just in case, we want it very, very clear that they have to pay the in lieu fee if neither one of those 2 uses
Work out.
Exactly.
Understood. Thank you.
Actually, only one, you already answered a couple in your summary, and that is the DRC required 1 on-site parking space. I didn't see that on the plan.
That's correct. So the DRC requested the 1 on-site space. The applicant, who is here this evening via Zoom and may answer that question a little bit more, as I came into the latter end of this, and unfortunately, our consultant who did process the application is currently out of state on vacation. So with that being said, the DRC did request that. It was not required of them to do it. They then turned to city staff and requested that the city provide them 1 loading space within our city lot. We have declined that. So again, that we are not dedicating any sort of drop-off space within the city lot, as that's for the benefit of all businesses within the city.
Will there be a loading zone on Alisol or on Mission for that purpose?
No.
So you mentioned the trash, taking the trash to the bank building?
That's the anticipated site for the trash. Again, the applicant is available to discuss how the trash enclosure situation will work. Again, just based on how most hotel trash, it would make sense. It would be the bank building, as they were showing an enlarged enclosure from the previous project approval that could accommodate this site.
Yeah.
I just got a text, it said they're having a hard time hearing it, so you have to speak up a little louder.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, I have a couple other questions, but let's go to public comment first, and then we'll bring it back. Is there anybody that would like to speak on this? Ed? No one? No one online? Okay, we'll bring it back. So I don't know, do you have any other questions?
No, my question was just about the parking, and you addressed the trash. Thank you.
Okay. My first question is on the trash. I didn't see any access on the drawings from the development to the bank building. I didn't see any gate or anything on there.
That's correct. So as shown, they're not showing access. Again, that's why the condition is there, to
It's in the
basically allow
conditions,
for
yeah.
an access, and that would be completed at a staff level.
Okay. And I read the minutes from the DRC meeting, and, you know, they recommended for us to approve it with conditions. Have those conditions been met?
Well, by the conditions is the conditions that are included that are brought for you in the staff report. So they brought it back to the DRC, and the applicant did a substantial revision. So the conditions that are particularly when it comes to parking and trash enclosures are reflective of what's in your staff report and in your draft resolution this evening.
So in the other things the DRC is now happy with, and
That's correct. So they are recommending approval
Okay.
on the project before you today.
so it doesn't have to go back to them again for any more review?
No.
Good. I had one other question. Where was it? Oh, it was in the conditions of approval. I think. Maybe not, maybe I'm getting my projects mixed up here. Yeah, I am. Yeah, that was all I had on this. So,
Yeah.
can I get a motion to approve?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the adoption of the Planning Commission Resolution Number 23-14, located at 1704 Mission Drive, APN 139-240-033, for development for a 9-room boutique property.
And do you want to include the CEQA
Yes, thank you.
in that as well?
And adopt a Class 32 exemption for California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 3-0. Thank you. Thank you.
I was going to say, yeah, gets easier as you go along, maybe.
Okay, moving on to item 5B, staff report, please.
Yes,
I
as the-
could interrupt, I'm sorry, I've got a conflict on this because it's neighboring my property. This is the project on Alisal, I believe.
on Alamo Pintado.
Oh, Alamo Pintado? I'm good on Alamo Pintado. Thank you, sorry.
This is a public hearing to consider adoption of Planning Commission Resolution number 2315, located at 670 Alamo Pintado, APN 139-530-005, for an amendment to a previously approved development plan and state density bonus to construct 32 airspace condominium units, and reconsider adoption of vesting tentative subdivision map 30081 with the finding that the proposed amendment is in conformance with the adopted exemption to the California Environmental Quality Act. So before you is known as 670 Alamo Pintado. It's an amendment and also, again, a reconsideration of the vesting subdivision map, and I'll get into that in a minute. So just a little bit of history to the approved project. The project was approved in 2020. It's a 1.21 acre site. There's currently 32 airspace condos that were approved. The vesting tentative subdivision map expired in December 2023, not November that you see on your screen. The development plan was approved for a time extension last month via consent, And then the underlying zone here is DR20. So as a part of this previous project approval in December of 2020, a state density bonus was approved. So what that means is the applicant took advantage of a state law known as the California State Density Bonus Act, which allows for additional density above and beyond the maximum density, maximum residential density that's allowed for in our zoning ordinance in exchange for deed-restricted affordable housing units at the low, very low, or moderate income levels. So the amendment was brought to us by the applicant due to the existing market conditions for multifamily housing. The applicant was looking to amend the floor plan and specifically amend and convert unit type C, consisting of a one-bedroom unit into a two-bedroom unit that would reconfigure only the internal walls. So it would not actually enlarge the proposed project or the buildings or increase the number of units before you this evening. So again, no proposed changes to the building footprint, size, or exterior elevations. Additionally, the applicant is wishing to take advantage of a recent change in the state density bonus law, which incorporates the parking maximums under California Government Code Section 65915 P1. So when this was approved in 2020 in December, the state legislature had just passed in September of that year what was known as the parking maximums for the state density bonus, and those went into effect January 1st. And so what that does is, again, hamstrings a municipality's ability to ask for additional parking beyond what the state feels is the maximum necessary for these type of projects. So in this instance, it's one parking space per one bedroom and 1.5 spaces for every two bedrooms. So the applicant can request that, at least going forward. In this instance, they're amending it because they're looking to, again, increase the sort of market that's available now for the two-bedroom units. And so they are requesting to utilize this piece of language that was non-existent in the original project approvals. Again, the proposed project would deed restrict 2 units to very low-income units. And so these units, along with the market rate units, go towards meeting the city's 2031 regional housing needs assessment targets. So that's something to keep in mind, because the hardest units that any municipality can ever create are your very low and your low income units. The moderates and the above moderates, usually most cities are pretty good about creating those units within the target time frame, but the very low and low deed restricted, those are really hard units to get, and this project would provide 2 of those units as a part of the construction. So again, I briefly gave you a primer on the state density bonus. The city may only require a total of 44 parking spaces under subsection P1. However, the applicant is proposing a total of 52 parking spaces, which is actually 8 spaces above the maximum that we could ask for. So they're actually technically over-parking it to state standards. And again, the proposed amendment does not change the applicant's ability to request a 27.5% density bonus, which is what they have and which there's going to remain to be. And so the applicant is required to enter into a deed restriction for 2 units of the very low income category. So what you see in your staff report and in your conditions is a reflection of that. The original conditions were not reflective of new state law. Since they are asking for an amendment, they now reflect new state law. So what the applicant will be required to do is deed restrict these units to very low income units for either 55 years for rental, or it's deed restricted for the sale if they decide to sell the unit to a income qualified, very low income family. And so there is also a request for an equity sharing agreement that the city would enter into with that income qualified family. So the great example of that is at the time of sale, the city would enter in an agreement and say 5, 10, 15, let's just use 10 years down the road, they decide they need to move up in life or they need to move out of the area due to a job or whatever circumstances there that's allowed to them. The city would gain back a certain percentage of equity. So I typically use 20%. So a great example is it's 100% or $100,000 of equity is grown in the unit. Typically it's a lot more than that. Just for easy math, let's say the equity sharing is 20%. The city would receive 20% of the $100,000. And that money would then go to create additional deed-restricted affordable housing down the line. So again, it benefits someone to get their foot in the door from the housing, from a for-sale standpoint, but also the city gets something back in return so we can continue deed restricting more and more housing to meet our RENA goals. So that's a big change from the original conditions of approval, and that's reflective in your resolution this evening. As a part of the amendment this evening is the vesting tentative subdivision map, and as mentioned earlier at the beginning of this presentation, this map has expired, and the reason being is that the development plans in our code allow for a 3-year time period. Unfortunately, state law for vesting tentative subdivision maps is 2 years, so that was overlooked by the applicant and city's planning staff. So before you, we are asking for reconsideration or reapproval of their vesting tentative map. Aside from that one condition, all other conditions on the proposed project remain the same in terms of frontage improvements, sidewalk improvements, et cetera. And it is consistent with, upon review, the project has not changed. So therefore, we'll just continue the map and carry forward what was previously approved. So consistent with the general plan and zoning ordinance, again, the previously approved project, the Planning Commission made those consistency findings with the general plan. The previous project approval is consistent with the zoning ordinance with the 2 exceptions or concessions that the state density bonus allows. In this instance, the developer is requested and was received a concession for lot coverage as the buildings exceed the maximum amount of lot coverage allowed in the DR20 and the front setback. So in this instance, the building is closer to the street to allow for that additional density. The proposed amendment does not add units, change the architectural features, and therefore remains consistent in that aspect. On the CEQA analysis, the planning staff and the commission previously adopted a categorical exemption, class 32 on this. The proposed amendments do not increase the number of units proposed, therefore no additional impacts are expected. So we are asking the commission to make a finding that it is consistent with the previously adopted class 32 exemption. And with that, city staff is recommending the planning commission adopt resolution 2315, located at 670 Alamo Pintado, for an amendment to a previously approved development plan and state density bonus to construct 32 airspace condo units, and approve vesting tentative subdivision map 381 with the finding that the proposed amendment is in conformance with the adopted exemption of the California Environmental Quality Act. And with that, I will turn it over to the commission for any questions that they may have.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'm good.
I do. On the low-income unit, could you go over again the conditions? I understand if it's rented, it's got to stay for 55 years as a low income?
That's correct. For income qualified family at very low income. So
And it would change, the definition of low income would change depending on how the market grows over time, or would it be fixed at the time of the original rental?
it's based on a state standard that's issued every May. And so that's, the state looks at CPI, inflation. It also looks at it based on county level. So some counties are different than the others. Obviously, our county is a little bit more higher cost of living. So it takes a lot of factors in consideration. The other factor considers household size. So based on household size and the county, it could change. So that it is based on that state
So
standard.
it could change on a yearly basis.
Very much so. And it can go, typically it goes up, but again, it could, in theory, also go down.
And then on the other side, if a low-income family decides to buy, do they have to stay there a minimum amount of time before they sell it? And if they do sell it, does it still fall within the low-income bracket?
So there's no minimum amount of time frame that you have to stay there. But obviously, buying a house is a very large endeavor. So, you usually you're going to stay there for a few years. In my practice with the for sale units, generally these families stay there for quite a long time because they're getting already a very good deal. With that being said, that's something that we would take a look at as a part of our agreement that we enter into at the time that the map is finalized.
So you may or may not have something in there that says that it has to stay in a low income.
So I'll jump in here because I've done a number of these agreements. There's a couple different ways that can be done. You can do what they call an equity share, which requires the seller to give a portion of the equity. You can include an alternative that if they don't want to do an equity share, they have to restrict the sale to a similarly low-income purchaser. And so it really depends on how the agreement is actually recorded, but the intent is to try to keep it in the affordability as long as possible by state law. And if we can keep it affordable for the full 45 years, that's the goal in it. But if for whatever reason it's an equity share, that unit leaves the affordability, but there's some money that comes back to the city to supplement additional affordable units. It's always better to try to get the unit itself than the money, so it just depends on the particular project, how it gets recorded.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So we'll go to public comment if nobody else has a question. Give it to Lisa. Just come up, state your name and
My name's Eric Vasquez. I'm the owner-developer. I just wanted to say thank you very much for your consideration tonight. We've been really busy at this project, and I know we can't really address it because of Commissioner Peterson, but we have its sister project behind Chomp. I mean, we got these two projects approved back in 2019, and we had a little slow start because of COVID, but we have been busy building the other project. We're just about done with it. It looks like it's going to be completed here in about January of this year. And our intent is to roll right into this project that you're hearing tonight. We have the contractor, the supervisor, they're just going to move over a couple, a mile or two, and hopefully roll into this new project. Really excited about them. And I just wanted to say thank you to your staff, planning, and public works. They've been really nice to work with for the duration of these projects, from the inception through construction, planning documents. It's been a really nice experience for us. So just want to say thank you. On the affordable housing, it's really important, and I'm glad that there are some options. I actually just sent a draft to planning this week of the deed restriction, the proposed. If I may, I would, there's multiple ways you can do it. If I did have a preference, I like on the for sale that it just rolls forward. I don't like equity with the cities. I like to pay it forward. If someone comes in and buys a unit and they find a different station in life and they have to move, or they choose to move, and when they sell it, I like that it goes to another affordable house. That's just me, or another affordable household, I should say. But other than that, thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions, I'm here to take them from you.
okay. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. So we'll bring it back. Apparently, no questions. I just want to point out one thing, a nit, as I always find at least one. In the general conditions of approval on page 93, it talks about the lot size being 1.32 acres. Everywhere else, it's referred to as 1.21, and all the calculations seem to be based on 1.21. So you probably should change that.
Net versus gross. Duly noted, though.
And I think that was really the only comment I had. We studied this pretty thoroughly the first time it came before us. And so if there's no questions, can I get a motion to approve?
Sure. I move to approve Planning Commission Resolution Number 23-15 to approve an amendment to a previously approved development plan and approval of a vesting tentative subdivision map number 30081 with a finding that the proposed amendment is in conformance with the adopted exemption to the California Environmental Equality Act.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Item 5C.
And I'm sorry, this is the one that I will recuse myself from because it's next to my property. Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Chair. So this is a public hearing to consider adoption of Planning Commission Resolution 2316 located at 539 Alisal, APN 139-143004, to reconsider adoption of vesting tentative subdivision map 380 to construct 11 airspace condos with the finding that the proposed subdivision is in conformance with the previously adopted exemptions to the California Environmental Quality Act. So a very similar situation to the project that was approved previous. So again, the project was approved in 2020. So the .40 acre site, 11 airspace condos have been approved. The vesting tentative subdivision map did expire in November. And however, the situation as explained by the applicant, this project is under construction. So previous to the approval, there was a state density bonus that was taken for this project. So at the prior to final occupancy, we were going to enter into a agreement with the project applicant to deed restrict one very low income unit. And again, that will go towards our meeting our 2023-2031 RHNA housing targets. And so again, every unit counts. Here, the applicant is simply requesting a reconsideration of the map or reapproval of the vesting tentative subdivision map. The applicant wishes to have some flexibility to subdivide the project prior to completion of construction or opt to rent the units out. The applicant has actually submitted the final plan for review on 2 rounds of review, so we are almost there to the recordation of the map. And as mentioned by the applicant, they are at the finishing stages of finishing up the construction of the project. And so the deed restriction will be based on either rental or for sale units, and no other changes to the project are proposed. So in your staff report, there is the vesting tentative subdivision map. This one is on your screen. And again, the Planning Commission has made previous findings to the general plan and zoning ordinance that made this that was consistent with the adopted general plan. And then the zoning ordinance, there were 2 exceptions for the density bonus, that one being the front setback. If you've passed by this project site as I do, it's looking pretty good. And then there was a parking consideration as well for reduction of parking. So the reconsideration before you this evening will not affect the existing construction. So it's something to note. So if the commission wishes to not reconsider the map, the project will continue to move forward. However, the applicant would not be able to subdivide the units and simply would rent them out. And then the applicant would simply enter into a 55-year agreement to deed restrict the 1 unit. So the Planning Commission previously adopted a categorical exemption, a Class 32 for this project as well, in the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act. And the proposed project before you, the reconsideration, has not changed any facts to the project before you, so we are asking for a conformity finding for the Class 32 exemption. City staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt Planning Resolution 2316, located at 539 Alisal Road, APN 139-143004, to approve the vesting tentative subdivision map 380 to construct 11 airspace condos with a finding that the proposed subdivision is in conformance with the previously adopted exemption to CEQA. And with that, I'll open up to questions to the Commission.
questions?
Done? I'm fine with the Roger.
No questions? Anybody in the audience like to speak on this?
I think I just want to clarify, no real questions, but.
Sure.
I live in Solvang condominium.
Could you state your name, please?
I'm Gloria De Salas, and I live at Solvang condominiums, which is the unit right next to the building you're talking about. And I just wanted to get a little bit of clarification. So this is I'm basically an owner of a unit right next to the building that we're talking about. So I wanted to just clarify with this new building, will it be owners renting the units, or would it be rentals from the very beginning? Am I clear on that question, or? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Can you answer that question for her?
Our intent is to have.
Come up to the,
Oh, go.
Thank you. I don't mind answering that question. Our intent is that they are going to be rentals initially, but because of the condo map, we'll have the ability to sell them in the future.
okay. similar to on the previous project?
Correct, yeah, we structured them both the same way, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other questions? Nothing online. So, nobody has questions. Can I get a motion to approve?
Sure. I move to adopt Planning Commission Resolution Number 23-16 to approve vesting tentative subdivision map 30080 located at 539 Alisol Road, APN 139-143-004, and include a finding that the proposed subdivision map is consistent with the previously adopted California Environmental Quality Act exemption.
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes 3-0. Thank you. So, no discussion items. Any comments from planning commissioners? General comments? Good news, bad news? Nothing. Could I have the planning manager's report then, please?
Thank you, Chair. Not much to report. As we are in the midst of the holiday season, we'll be having a DRC meeting this month. A couple items will be on consent, but our biggest item is actually going over the sidewalk dining ordinance. We're looking for the DRC to create standards so that way it'll help what we take back to first you, the Planning Commission, and then the City Council, and take it in such a manner that these are done at a staff level because we've executed standards instead. So again, trying to roll out the red carpet versus red tape, and recognizing that sidewalk dining is a very important component to our restaurants and our wine bars that are within the TRC. With that being said, there's no meeting that is scheduled for the January Planning Commission. However, I will be polling each individual commissioner for a special Planning Commission hearing date sometime in January. It's looking more like towards the end. We'll be taking a rezone for two of our three sites for our housing element. That's sites B and D. That is not site C. As we are required by state law to have those in the books by February 15th. So we're looking to fast track that. Myself and Lisa will be working on the environmental report on that under quick shape. And then again, it'll come before you at basically the middle or the end of January, and quickly flipping to the council for their consideration. And finally, the housing element that goes before the City Council with a recommendation approval from your body next week. Again, we are looking to quickly transmit that to the state so that we're in the state's good graces, and then we will continue fledging on with the general plan update and the environmental impact report. We are looking to reconvene the GPAC in January to go over the last remaining portions of the general plan update and the document itself. We are currently looking for a tract of the end of February, but hopefully sooner, to have the draft EIR on the streets, and that will kick off the 45-day review period. And then we are looking to respond to comments on that. And then from there, we will be taking that to the commission body for a recommendation or approval, and then ultimately a City Council approval, and we would have adopted general plan hopefully by the end of spring. So we're trying to get that back on track, but it's a very large task at hand. Lori, our planning consultant, has been the lead on that, and I'm trying to make sure that we hit our schedule and timing as quickly as possible. And with that being said, just a Site C update. We did have a meeting with the HOA and the applicant. Myself and Randy sat in as flies on the wall for the most part to listen to the concerns of the neighbors and have the applicant, talk over and walk over the project with them. The applicant is the project is in the applicant's court. So what that means is that the applicant needs to retool based on our comments that we provided in terms of the documents that they need to provide to us. The applicant is free to redesign the proposed project at this point, but it needs to be in our hands no later than April 5th, 2024. And yes, my calendar is dated and locked and loaded for that date. So that's the last date that they have to turn something into us, and likely they will. And so we're looking at, from there, proceeding to review that and then disseminate whatever information needs to go to the DRC, and then from there, the Planning Commission, and ultimately the Planning Commission, and then potentially the City Council. So that's the update on Site C. I know some of you have gotten emails in regards to that. Again, I would strongly urge to not reply. Send those over to myself or Lisa, and just kind of stay above the fray as you are a decision-making body for that project. And with that, that concludes my manager's report.
Thank you, Randy. Anything else? If there's nothing else, meeting's adjourned at 6:45. Thank you all for your hard work.
Yeah.
And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We won't see